sometimes people think, oh, race again. Let's talk about that again. It's annoying, isn't it? It's that annoying for us as well, for whoever's receiving racism, for whoever's receiving sexism, for whoever's receiving whatever that situation is, it's annoying too. If you're saying Black Lives Matter, well, then why are you discriminating against white people? Obviously, every life matters, but you cannot say all lives matter until you include Black in that. And in my past experiences, you will never hear me say, oh, it's because I'm Black. But what you will hear me say is, okay, cool, no worries. Let me just show you why I need to be here, and let me give you an example as to why you need more of me.
Welcome back to Inspired By. Now, today's guest is someone that I'm very fortunate to not only call a great friend, but an incredible business partner. This amazing lady actually walked away from one of the largest fashion houses in the whole of the world to start building other people's brands and help other people like yourself build yours. She's someone that I'm very excited to be in partnership with in both of my businesses. She is the creator behind the whole Queens in Business brand and the creative juices behind every single book that Inspired By Publishing publishes. Please welcome to Inspired By the one and only Tanya Grant.
Hello.
Welcome, Queen. It's so good.
Hello. I'm saying welcome to you. To your own show, Chloe.
That's cool. I love it. I love it.
Oh,
this is what we queens do, right?
Yes.
Like I've had quite a few of our queens on the show now, and I love it when we have people like business partners, best friends on the show, because we talk all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Like when I've been planning having like our business partners on the show, some of our queens, some of our clients, I'm like, I feel like I know everything. And that's the thing for me, is this show is about finding out what I don't know and what our followers, our listeners, our viewers also don't know. And so obviously I've told a little bit about your story, Tam. And I know that it's been very inspiring for others to hear your story, and what you've been able to share on stage has helped hundreds of people to actually start building their own brands. Yeah. So what do we need to know about Tanya Grant to get a bit of a flavor of you?
To get a flavor of me. Jeez, goodness. Well, good luck, everybody, first of all. But no, so me, Tanya Grant, starting out in business. First of all, I didn't know I had a business. And a lot of my career, I started trading as a graphic designer. I knew I graduated from uni. It's like, right, it's time to get a job. Let's get a job. Oh my goodness, I can't get a job. What do I do now? And my way in was freelancing. And thankfully, I was fortunate to work for big marketing houses like Topshop, Top Man Marketing, which then eventually led on to Dorothy Perkins and so many more other Arcadia brands as well, which was absolutely brilliant. But obviously, not obviously, but sometimes in these big spaces comes the little annoyances, the little things you start noticing around and think, wait, is it me? No, it's not me. No, surely I'm just overthinking things. And to me, that was my norm. To me, it was like, Tan, just keep your head down, just keep going and just keep it moving, right? You just got to get your work done and so forth. And literally, I was freelancing, not only with them, but also other big brands as well. And freelancing in these big spaces for well over, I want to say 17 or so years. And then went into full-time employment. Unfortunately, got made redundant from full-time employment. I say unfortunately, it was actually a blessing in disguise. Absolutely brilliant. I'm glad that happened. And sometimes I guess, you get your hand forced in the direction that you actually need to be going in. And and then fast forward to where I am today, helping multiple ladies and men as well within the branding industry, obviously, but more so just helping to elevate their businesses and get themselves noticed. So being able to do that it's been a godsend. I didn't notice myself as a brand specialist, as a branding expert. It's something that I had to grow into because I didn't understand it. And I think in general, as business owners, we evolve naturally within our mindsets, right? And understanding that aspect, and the people that I've helped along the way, absolutely brilliant. Wow. Loved it more so than being in the big houses, big marketing houses and so forth. But yeah.
And what, Tan, obviously it's easier, said in loose terms, being employed. Yeah. And it's easier when you can be behind such a big brand like the Arcadia Group, Topshop, Top Man, Burton, Dorothy Perkins. Now, as a branding specialist, there could be a lot of authority or expertise attached to that. Like, I'm a branding specialist at the XYZ brands. What pushed you to the point of wanting to step away from that and start actually pushing through to be known as Tanya Grant?
Yeah. I think one of the annoyances I mentioned before there was a few annoyances that happened. One of them was seeing other people have their side businesses and actually flourishing with them. And I remember thinking to myself, Tan, you're doing this work, which is great. Number one, these people are not pushing you with your expertise. Number two, why the hell are you not doing that as well? You know, I was relying on what I felt was a safe space. So I was relying on my norm and hoping that it would get me to those levels, helping, thinking that, no, one day it's going to happen. They're going to give me bigger projects and it's going to happen. And not to say that it didn't happen. It did actually happen eventually. It took a few years for that to happen. But there were many times it was just like, what the hell are you doing, Tan? I had to have many a word with myself. It still happens today, but it's all good. But at the same time, just understanding those bits, like, how talented you are. And this is me talking to myself, like, Tan, how talented you are. So go for it. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? And I kept thinking, what am I waiting for? But sometimes that thought can last for a good few months, right? Yeah. And if you're not aware of it yourself, well, then you're going to keep asking yourselves those questions. And before you know it, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years go down the line, and another a thing will come in the way of it. And the opportunity for you to just go out and just flourish is going to be forever put on the back burner. And the other thing I used to do as well, I was happy to let other people fly and flourish. The nature of my business is to be able to do that, right? To help elevate others. To me, that's my norm. And to allow myself to then do it, to understand, wait, Tan, why are you not flourishing and doing and standing out as yourself, right? I didn't see it because my job is to understand other people, not me. And I got stuck in that rut. And it's so easy to get stuck in that rut. And before you know it, you're back in a cycle, not realizing, whoa, wait, what am I doing? You're again questioning yourself. So it's almost like the same question comes up in different scenarios. And I didn't realize that, obviously, not obviously, but recent scenarios, but then equally in the past as well. It comes up in different periods. And to me, it's interesting. I like to analyze myself these days and take on different exercises just to understand, who am I? I actually take the time to understand that now. Whereas before, it's like, no, let's help you out first. It's easier to do this because, why should I help myself out? No. Yeah. It's not about me. It's about you. And again, going back to the nature of my business, sometimes it is a hindrance in that respect because you forget about you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's so common though, isn't it? So many of us, and you hear it a lot with your branding expertise, and you're saying to people, well, hang on, that's not you. And I've got a couple of things I want to ask you about that because I've seen you do it live and I find it fascinating the way you do it. I'm always like, God, how did she get that person? Like, I've had people in our books have gone, I don't even want my name on the book. And then next minute, Tan's got their face on the front of the book and they've said yes to it. I'm like, what? We'll cover that later.
Yeah.
Now, flashback to your times in the world of a job, of employment, in these big fashion houses and other companies. What would you say is the biggest challenge you faced that sort of kept you playing small?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that question. Let's say the long and short of it, folks, by the way, this is my phrase, the long and short. So
it'll be on a fridge magnet.
It'll be on a fridge magnet. There's many, I have a list. So the long and short of it is, I used to feel silenced a lot. Especially as a freelancer, you feel to a certain extent that you're in to do a job and you do that job alone and then you're out and then you're good, right? You move on to the next thing and then the next thing. That was the nature of it. But there were certain contracts that I had a very long time period with it. And I was putting ideas forward, but they wasn't always getting heard. And I remember I used to get overlooked a lot, or at least I used to feel like that. And I remember one scenario, I won't say exactly which brand, but I remember one scenario I had to, I was working alongside a lady who was going on maternity leave. In my head, I'm the next best person to take over. But no, they went and hired somebody completely different to come and take over that position. And I remember thinking, well, damn, am I that bad that you can't even get me in to cover you for maternity? And I remember writing an email to this lady. And I was saying to her, I totally appreciate your choice and I totally respect it, but can you help me to understand why this wasn't the case? And off the back of that email, I remember I saw her the next day and she was like, Tam, please don't leave. Whatever you do, do not leave. I was like, yeah, okay, but help me to understand this. And to this day, when I think about it, I don't think she actually ever gave me an explanation for that. And you know what? It is what it is. It was what it was. And that was the way I had to learn to just think about things in order for myself to just keep my sanity about myself. But then equally understand that, do you know what? This new person who actually came in, we got on like a house on fire. She was like, oh my gosh, Tan, can't believe they. Da, 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 da. And it just made me realize, Tan, you're not going crazy. This is something that is actually happening. And what I'm talking about is the idea of representation, but in the idea of race, or in the idea of me being me, in the idea of me being seen as the norm. Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't like to ever lead with the idea, the race card, let's call it that. But sometimes it is that, you know? And in my past experiences, you will never hear me say, oh, it's because I'm Black. You will never, ever hear me say that. But what you will hear me say is, okay, cool, no worries. Let me just show you why I need to be here. And let me just see, you know, give you an example as to why you need more of me, you know? And that's always been when I think about it, that's actually always been my fight. And again, even when I think about with branding, it's what I help others to do. And I guess why I'm so passionate about it, because in the background, not realizing my own past, that's the fight that I've had in that kind of a way, thinking that it was just about business. Like, no, it goes a little bit deeper than business. And funny enough, I actually had a conversation with somebody else, potentially going to be doing an interview with her as well. And one of the things that we talked about is like, isn't it crazy? Sometimes you're so passionate about something, think about what's happened in the past, but it might not even be in your past. It could be in your grandparents' past. It could be in your parents' past. And without you realizing, you're actually fighting for them or even talking for them as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. You know, when I think about like when my grandparents came here to England for the first time, the fight that they would have had to have gone through to just be for a day, you know, and it was a daily thing for them. For me today, again, that was what they experienced. For me today, it's something different. But all the more reason why I need to make sure I need to step up and show up and be present in certain spaces, you know, because again, I want to be seen as the norm. I don't want these conversations to be had all the time. It's annoying, you know?
Now, I just wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to share a quick message with you. Now, I've been hosting these interviews with Inspired by Show for a while now, and I've been loving all of the great feedback from our listeners. And it really means a lot when you all share from listening to these episodes, watching these episodes, share your incredible feedback. And I love that you love it as much as we do. Now, my mission for the Inspired by Show is to inspire others to challenge the norm, share their story, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable and, shock horror, take the mask off and be raw and real. So I have a favor to ask. Can you help me on this mission by sharing this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this message? Maybe there's a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know that would really benefit from hearing this inspiring story. If you could do that to help us, help even more people to challenge the norm and push themselves out of their own comfort zone, then I'd really appreciate it. So if you haven't already, share this episode with a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know would benefit. Now, back to the episode.
Of course it is.
Yeah. But,
and it's, I don't want to say it's not needed because I think it fucking is. Like,
oh my gosh.
We've had this conversation, and by the way, Tan and I talk about this off camera all the time.
Yeah.
Because if I can be vulnerable with everyone watching and listening, until I came across people like yourself, Tan, where when we created Queens in Business, without going through the whole detailed story, maybe that might come up, maybe not. I approached a handful of women and said, I've got this crazy idea. Do you want to come on the ride with me? And you all said yes. You're all suckers. Little did you know what we were going to create. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It was the most amazing yes I ever had. And since then, when we first did our very first event, we were all on the stage. I remember someone in the audience coming up and saying, the fact that, Chloe, you are the only white Caucasian founder of this business is amazing. And up until that moment, I had never noticed.
Yeah.
It never come. And I was like, really? And I remember looking at you all along on the stage going, holy shit. Because for me, I've never noticed, because to me we're all totally unique.
Yes.
And it's not just our race or our beliefs or our religion that defined us. And but I think unfortunately it does still need to be said. And when the reason I love that we can have this conversation was I remember when Black Lives Matter was happening and I had already started building my brand, my voice, and a lot of people came to me and said, I'd love to interview you on it. And I'll be honest, really vulnerably, I was terrified.
Yeah.
because
Don't know what to say.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what would be acceptable. What if I say the wrong thing and upset any race,
Yeah.
let alone black, white, anyone?
Yeah.
And because it felt like it was uncharted territory.
Yeah,
And so to
yeah.
me, saying nothing felt safer.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to you very vulnerably one night when we had a lot of our weekends away, and over, I don't drink, but over a few drinks, we sort of said, actually, I was like, Tan, can I ask you a question? Being really vulnerable, what can I say? What's acceptable? What am I allowed to say? Because I want to talk about it. And you remember you saying to me, silence is also saying something. You were like, not saying it doesn't solve the problem. And ever since then, I remember the very first time we were on Clubhouse together, way back in those days.
Yes.
And I remember you mentioning it, and I thought, do you know what? I feel safe now. I can say it because I'd had almost like permission to talk about it. And that's why I find it amazing that we can have this conversation, because I think it does need to be said.
Oh my gosh, it's important that we talk about it. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what the for me, obviously, it's a black and white issue, or whatever issue it is. Whoever you are, you need to talk about it, right? Whatever your difference is, whatever your fight is, whatever your cause is, you need to talk about it, because it's important that awareness is had. Because let's go back to Black Lives Matter, right? I think for me, maybe it was just because me being in the adult life now. Obviously, that is not the first time that kind of a situation has happened, right? It's one of a million, trillion, billion situations that's happening. And it's still happening today, right? For me, I always say, like, you know, I guess why it hits so hard is because it was televised the way it was. And the sheer directness or evilness, I'm going to call it that, because it was that another person felt that it was okay to just continue to do what he was doing because he felt in a place of authority to do that. How evil do you have to be to keep doing that? You know, to take someone's life like that in any kind of respect. And black, white, whatever the situation is, right? But let's focus on the Black Lives Matter. And for that, when everything came about, I actually did one of the protests, but in a small town, so it wasn't as huge as I was not going to be doing the big protests. No. But I went to a smaller space and did the protest there, and it was so cool being in that, and I loved the unity that it brought.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just black people just talking about it. It was white, it was Asian, it was anybody who was breathing under the sun talking about it, who had an ounce of morals about them, right? And who knew right from wrong. If you know right from wrong, you know what to stand up for, you know what to speak about, you know? But yet, I agree, you don't have to like be trashing every Tom, Dick and Harry of a thing. There's a way to, in my opinion, a way to kind of go about it and still be heard.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to shout about it, but I can do my own bit in this kind of a way. Like, for example, on my post, for example, I just did like a series of they were all based around obviously Black Lives Matter and reasons why, and then equally the understanding of, because I know there was this argument as well, but okay, if you're saying Black Lives Matter, well then why are you discriminating against white people? Why are you discriminating about
I was hoping
Asian
that would
people?
come up here.
Yes. Why are you discriminating about what about, you know, I can then say, you know, all this kind of like, obviously every life matters, but you cannot say all lives matter until you include black in that.
Yeah. 100%.
Or until you include any other race in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a case of, that's what, in my head, what the campaign was about. And even I'm going to call, as much as I said it as a campaign, it actually became a whole movement for a change. Rather than it being a trend, it was a whole movement.
Just a trend or a hashtag or anything. And I think one thing that I love about when we talk about this is because it is about creating unity. And one of the things which we're massive on Queens of Business is about creating that. Now, one of the things that I always find is really important when it comes to race, religion, beliefs, a lot of people see it as us versus them. And a lot of people go, oh no, it's not us versus them, it's us and them. Actually, it's just us.
Yes.
Like we're all just people. And we're all just people with our own beliefs, our own missions, our own visions. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't act like we're different, because that's what branding is all about. It's about being unique and focusing on your uniqueness. It doesn't have to be your skin color. It doesn't have to be your race. It doesn't have to be your beliefs. It can just be your flavor, your passion.
What's your flavor?
Tan, what's your flavor?
I love that. So my flavor, Chloe.
And I'm not talking about your favorite crisps here. Just if anyone's wondering.
Salt vinegar, you know. No, my flavor will always be a little hint of spice in there, because I want and want to encourage others to step out. Just get the courage yourself to just step out. Like a prime example, I remember working on a project, this was a few years ago, and the lady's a trichologist. Typical of the trichologist world, it shows a hair strand and maybe like a cross section of it. That's your logo and you're done. I said, listen, right. Number one, I will do an example, but best believe I'm going to judge it up for you. However, I want to actually push your boundaries because I want you to understand that there's another way to show a technical side of being a trichologist without showing the typicalness of what it is. And also, furthermore, do you want to stand out or not? You know, if you're coming to me, you're going to stand out. If you're coming to me, it's because you understand that I'm going to push your boundaries, right? Because I think it's important to. And nobody was created by God, whoever it is that you believe in. Nobody was created to be the same. Not even identical twins. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has their own individuality. So step out with that, you know? And I remember actually doing it was a live to our group in Queens in Business. I remember talking about you were never designed to stay the same. You were designed to stand out and to show up differently. So go for it, you know? Who cares who you are? Just go for it. And just speak your truth, you know? So long as you're not offending too many people, you know?
Small caveat there.
Yes. Yeah, let me just throw that in there. And keep it about positivity always, because that's what will help to lead your message, and that's what will help to direct your message. And I think that's always important to be able to do that. Like, you know, you always hear me talk about lead with your values because it will steer you in the right direction, and your values literally hit your gut.
Yeah, of course.
And equally hit your heart. They help for the two to talk, you know? And the minute people understand that part is the minute they get to start talking the way how they would talk. Yeah.
One of the things I love about this show is that I get to hear such inspiring messages from people like yourself, Tan. And I always love to feel someone's passion come through, and I can feel it from you. There's a fire within you with this passion around representation and standing out. My question for you is, where was that passion created? Because there's always something. There's always something in our lives that has happened. And like you said, it might not be our life, it might be our grandparents, whatever.
Yeah.
Can you remember what has happened in your life, or what moment created this sort of fire to go, fuck this shit, I'm making a change here?
Yeah. I think there's been a few situations, and I'm going to talk about one that obviously within work when I was freelancing, in the sense where I was sick and tired of being that best kept secret. And actually, funnily enough, this is the title I now use anytime I do training or anytime I'm on certain podcast interviews or whatever. It is about being the best kept secret. Stop being the best kept secret. And funnily enough, we depending on whenever you're listening to this, folks, but we got to speak to a lovely lady called Judymay Murphy, and she was talking about the idea. I remember asking her a question about branding in general. And she said to me directly, because I have this habit, folks, I don't realize that I'm doing it, but I will talk about myself, but then push it onto other, include other people, because it's about inclusion. Let's
Can I tell you something, Tan? You're doing it right now.
I am. See, this is it without me realizing. But she said this phrase, which really, really hit home with me, and it came into alignment with why I talk about this. And she said, "Can you stop pushing the attention away from yourself?" And I was like, oh shit, I'm still doing it and not realizing, because again, it's just so easy for me to do that. But back to me.
Yeah.
Talking back to me now, I think it's coming back to the idea of, I used to feel like that wallflower. I used to feel like that person in the cupboard that people used to take out when they needed me and then put me back when they were ready. Do you know what I mean? And I think I got sick of that. I got sick of other people getting to the levels. I got sick of other freelancers getting hired over me, thinking, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? And I kept thinking, do you know, forget this. I'm done. I'm out. Let me go somewhere else, who can appreciate what it is that I do, that celebration, don't go where you're tolerated, go where you're celebrated kind of thing. But at the same time, I think those little trigger moments for me happened over time. And, or more recently as well, just understanding that, Tan, you need to be speaking about this stuff even more. Being on stage last year, a lady came up to me and said, do you know what? seeing you on stage made me realize, who was another black lady, made me realize that I had to do more of it. And when she said that to me, Chloe, I think that was the first time it really triggered for me. I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't realize the magnitude of what it was that I was doing. All I know is about branding. All I know is right here, right now. This is it, my little cocoon, right? But until you have an outsider give you that feedback, whew, yeah. So you find that extra spice and you find that extra drive that just keeps pushing you forward. And I think that moment as well also helped me to understand that, do you know what, Tan, you need to do more. You need to keep speaking about it. You need to be talking about it. And funnily enough, one of the clubhouse sessions that you and I had, and even like Carrie and I had as well, it was talking about race. There was one part in particular, it was actually one with Carrie and I, in the sense where it came onto the idea of, sometimes people think, oh, race again, let's talk about that again. It's annoying, isn't it? And I remember saying that, do you know what? Yeah, people have that opinion, but guess what? It's annoying for people having to deal with it as well. So guess, yeah,
it's for you
thing.
guys. What? Imagine the people actually being affected.
Do you know what I mean? It's a thing, right? And I remember just capturing that and thinking, do you know what? Yeah, people are actually thinking this though. Oh, let's play that card again, shall we? Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, it's actually, how about it's that annoying for us as well, for whoever's receiving racism, for whoever's receiving sexism, for whoever's receiving whatever that situation is, it's annoying too.
But you can also say that about anything, right?
Yes.
It's not the race card. It's like, imagine someone is abused. Oh, you're playing that abuse card again.
Yes.
Like, it's not a card.
No, it's not a card.
Experience. And it's not something we choose.
It's a thing, right? And the other experience, the clubhouse session that you and I were doing one time, and it was a case of this lady, again, a black lady in the US. Don't know if you remember. She was talking about the fact that I think sadly her son had passed away from knife crime and so forth. And she's like, how do we talk about this? How do we make this happen? How do we make it move, whatever? And I said, you and I are one people. Do you know what I mean? You have your situation and you need to start talking about it. It has to start with you. But yes, you are a small person, but you're a small person with a big voice who can keep talking about it. You just got to talk and raise awareness about it, And I think that's the argument that I have for anybody. If you're feeling fired up inside, you got to let it out.
Yeah.
Because that fire will just come out in indigestion.
It's going to come out anyway, so let it out.
It's going to come out anyway, so why not put it to good use in a way that is still, I guess, kind of congruent to what it is that you stand for and how it is that you like to behave and stand true to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But again, you do it in a positive way that you can still be heard. You don't always have to shout to be heard,
And one of the things, Tan, I love about this is that, like, we could talk about this all day and there's so much passion there. For many people that are listening or watching, they will have a voice. They're listening to this right now going, Tan, you're right. I need to speak up. And there's a little voice inside their head thinking, well, what will others think? What if I upset someone? Who were you most afraid of upsetting when you started speaking your truth and opening your voice? Was there anyone in your life where you were like, oh, I'm a bit worried about what that person might think?
Do you know what? Funnily enough, not even my family. It was more so my peers. Like from past freelance experiences, because I know I still follow them and so forth. And I used to think, oh my gosh, what if they see this? And I used to think that they used to think about me sometimes, not the ones who I actually cared about, but the ones who are sort of the outsider giving you that smile from a distance. Do you know what I mean? Who are just like, oh, hi. Yeah, and then walk off again type
We all
of thing.
know who those people
Yes, those people. I used to think that, oh my gosh, they're going to see this and think, oh, what's she talking about now? What's she got a leg to stand on? This was in my head, by the way. This is not something that they said to me. Does she even have a leg to stand on? Does she even know what she's talking about? But then I thought, forget that. Because at the end of the day, and anybody who's listening to it, or everybody who's going to be listening to this, right? You've got to come out your own way. Because you know what? Nobody's going to listen to it if you don't say anything. And if they don't listen to it, then okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's okay. But guess what? You said it and it's done now and it's actually okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, do you know what, Tan? I can vouch for that because if we hadn't had our conversation
Yeah.
one night over a cup of tea
Yeah.
in one of, I think it was your living room or someone's
yeah,
living
yeah.
room, I would never have brought it up
No.
because, again, the fear was too big. And I think for a lot of people, the bigger your brand gets, the more worried you are about saying the wrong thing. And that's what I'd had. I always thought I was disruptive. I could be very honest, and I'm very honest, and I put my foot in it so many times. It's unreal. But I was like, that's not something I want to test the waters with.
Yeah.
And you talking about it gave me permission to talk about it. And I think sometimes we need to push ourselves out there and not wait for permission.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Black women that have done that, right? Like, you're not the first
No,
one, but
exactly.
it's about creating more.
Yes.
Whose footsteps are you walking in? Who has inspired you from the Black community to speak up about representation?
Yeah, that's such a good question. For me, aside from my family members, like not only my mum, my aunt, all my aunts, in fact, and my uncles, not only my older generation, they're gonna hate me for saying older. Sorry, folks, the 18 and 3/4 folks. As my mum will tell you, she's 18 and 3/4, sometimes 17. So, but anyway,
Nice.
It's the generation above me. My grandparents, especially, my grandmothers, fun fact about they're both feisty ladies, God rest their soul. But one of them in particular is a crazy story, actually got held up at gunpoint in their own house. But rather than cowering away or just say, oh, please just go or whatever, she took up a coffee table and tried to throw the coffee table at the gunman.
I think I'd have loved meeting her.
Oh, man, this is the line of women, I come from. But I'm cool with it.
You know what explains? This explains so much, Tan.
And please, by the way, do not do that. Do not try this out.
Let's get the coffee table on the floor.
Yeah, and please just go to safety. Thank you very much. But that's the kind of attitude. And again, with my other grandmother, she had the gift of the gab at times without you realizing it. She can come for people when she's ready.
Nice.
But at the same time, so all those people from ancestors, if you like, or just more so the grandparents and parents and aunts and uncles, cousins, or the family is who inspire me. But aside from family, let's look at Michelle Obama. Oh my gosh.
Isn't she just amazing?
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, all right, lady, okay, I see you. Okay. Yeah. And even like people closer to home, there's another lady called Serlina Boyd who started Coco magazine. And it initially was for girls only. And she started it off the back in the pandemic of all times. Started off the back because her daughter, Black lady, her daughter wanted to see somebody. Well, she wanted her daughter to see somebody like herself. Again, representation, right? And kids, oh my gosh, they see so much more than what we think that they see. And it's respecting that and honoring that. Okay. And then saying to yourself, okay, how can I help this? Do you know what I mean? How can I do my little part to make sure that they stand up? And going back to George Floyd, my younger nephew, who's, oh gosh, this auntie duties. Oh my gosh. Sorry, nephew. He is now probably like, that's it. He's going to be 13 this year. But at the time when the whole George Floyd situation was happening, he did a poem about it because in his school they had to write poems and so forth, and he chose to write one about Black Lives Matter and especially about George Floyd.
Wow.
And when I tell you the passion that this young man had, right, and it almost brought like a tear to my eyes, like at such a young age you're feeling it already. And one of my prayers is that all my nieces and my nephews, however far afield they are, they get to grow to be old people, because this is a thing that we now have to think, not now have to think about it, but this is where my head is at now.
Of course.
I just want them to all grow to be old people, and friends, children, and all these kids.
But also not to have to worry about it.
Not have to worry.
Most people we don't worry about the safety of our lives for those reasons. And I think that's why it's really powerful, the people that you've shared, because both Michelle Obama and Serlina have created their own path.
Yeah.
They've not sat there and gone, pity me, I'm not going to be represented. They've gone, do you know what? I want to show my kids, because Michelle Obama talks about this a lot in her book, that she didn't want to be like everybody else. She was going to step there for her husband to support him, but she wanted to do it her way.
Yes.
Serlina's doing it the same.
Yeah.
So Tan, my question for you is, what's your way now?
Yeah. I love that question because it took me a while to think about that. when I first thought about it myself. And I think my way is being vocal about subjects like this, being vocal about representation, because it does matter. And obviously my vehicle is using branding, right? So my way is, if I can get onto extra interviews, if I can get onto platforms that will allow a message like this to be shared and to be respected and to be supported and to be empowered, that's what I want. And it is not just for me. This is a whole ripple effect. I'm, again, one person doing this, and I'm going to do my bit. This is my bit. So now anybody who's listening to this, what's your bit? I'm going to call you out. What's your bit?
Yeah.
And I say I'm calling you out because I was called out, and we don't realize it until you get called out. So here's your sign, folks. I keep looking at the microphone like you're in the microphone.
I love it, Tan. And do you know what I really enjoy about that honesty, though, is because we do all need to get called out, and we do all need to push ourselves out there. And for anyone that is listening and watching, we're not just talking about a business brand right now. If you have a business, if you want to build your personal brand, of course this makes sense. But even if you're individuals, right? Like, even if you are someone that wants to get a better job, you want a better career, you want to build a family, it's important to know who you are so you can stand out. And that is essentially your brand. We always joke about it in Queens. Your brand is what people say behind your back.
Yeah.
So if you have people that will speak around your back, then that's your brand.
Yeah.
So, and you talk about the concept of values here. So run us through how you help people to establish what their brand actually is.
Yeah. So I always talk about having your VPV. And what I mean by that, I label it as the brand power of 3, because it is super powerful. If you know what it is for your business, if you know what it is for your own personal brand, well, then everything else starts growing and flourishing nicely because you understand it. And when you understand it, you know how to talk better. You know what your story is. You know what your message is. You know how you're helping people and why you're helping people even more so. And a lot of people are out here, they're starting thinking, do you know what? I just need a logo. I need a website, and that should be it. That's my brand done. And I've got a couple of flyers. Oh, yeah, and a business card. And I'm done. Like, but no. So we need to backtrack. We need to dive a little bit deeper and understand what your values are, your vision, your purpose. Because with those 3 things, you get to understand what makes you tick. What puts that that smile on your face, or that passion in your belly, right? What fires you up? And when you discover that for yourself, you get to discover how exactly you're helping people. Like for me, and I'm saying exactly is because when I discovered that I was actually a brand specialist, not just a graphic designer, and for all those who identify with graphic designers, amen to you, excellent stuff. However, understand that graphic designing is just a tool. It's not the thing, And even like I'm saying as a brand specialist as well, branding is the next level of it. But I do believe that there is something above that as well. But I'm on the discovery to find out what that is,
And that's because you've mastered your VPV. So
yes.
Values,
vision, and purpose.
Values, vision, and purpose.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and so
values,
that's
vision.
obviously been your journey and what you've been able to unravel. Question for you, Tam. Are we always right with what we think our brand is? So if I think I am a certain brand because of my colors, my logo, am I right?
Nope. Not always. Some people do get it right, actually, and it's quite funny when they don't realize it. But there's, and I think they've managed to home in on the little aspects that do make them tick, so they understand. Okay, that actually sits right with my brand or my being, whatever it is, right? But no, not all the time is it right. People will pick certain colors, fonts. Again, the whole look and feel of it because they think it's pretty. Or, yeah, I like that works. Or they'll do a whole big color clash and think, yeah, people will get it, it's fine. It's like, no, what are you trying to do? Like, confuse people? Give people headaches? Stop it, Yeah. And sometimes less is more. And what I mean by that is sometimes you really have to just strip it back. Go back to the basics. What is it for yourself? And I always say, when it comes to your values, pick 3 to 5, because as we know, that's a kind of sweet spot, right? 3, less than 3 is too little, more than 5 is too much, and it gets confusing, right? But when you've got your top 3 to 5, then you get to have a more clearer aspect as to who you are and why it is that you do what you do eventually, Yeah. And then I would say this as well, get your values and go below that. And what I mean by that is, if your value is love, what is it about love? Is it receiving love or is it giving love? Because there's a big difference there.
Yeah, of course.
You know, if it's happiness, what is it about happiness? Is it doing the things that you actually want to be happy in, or is it about I don't know, is it just making sure somebody else is happy? You know, that there's differences there. So that's why I always say, like, if you've got your values, go a little bit deeper, because when you get to understand those aspects, when you do go deeper, the fonts come out better. The colors come out better. The way you speak about your brand comes out a hell of a lot better. And again, that passion that you find when you do understand what your purpose is, or your vision is, even more so, you start making those purposeful moves in the better direction, rather than just, hitting and hoping, running around in circles, like, fingers crossed this will work, and throw everything at the wall and da-da-da. No, start there.
Yeah.
I will say that to anybody, because it's important. But yeah.
And how do we then take our values and our brand into something more? Because one of the things you've done with Queens, which is obviously the business that we both own and run, is you've turned the brand that was Queens. Because I came up with the name of Queens in Business. I remember having a call with you before bringing business partners in. And I said, right, Tan, I've got this idea. I don't even know if I like the name. Queens in Business, what do you think? And you were coming at all these logos, these plans, and I was planning on paying you to do the service, remember? And then when we started talking about it, I was like, no, Queens is way bigger than just me. But I had no clue it was going to become what it has now.
I don't think any of us knew.
A magazine, it's a book series, it's a merchandise range. Like, we go to events and people, I'm not even on stage, you're not on stage, we're in the room, in the audience, and people are walking around with your hoodies on, like hoodies you designed. We've got a movement, we've got a community, we've got programs. It's so much more than just the logo. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
How did you do it?
Yeah, I think it's recognizing that vision. So again, it's understanding, where do we see this, right? Who do we want? How do we want it to be represented? We want people out there to not only be seeing queens. We want them to feel like a queen. Like, on our merch website, it is about feeling like a queen, right? Or dressed like a queen, in fact. And there's a really cool photo of us being crazy, as we always are. But at the same time, yeah, I think within any kind of a brand, you've got to think like that, because it's not only about what people see as face value, it's about what they're feeling as well. Because we're taking people on a whole branded journey. It's not just about the logo. And this is what I always stress. Your logo is not your brand. I'm saying this. Your logo is not your brand, nor is your website your brand. And, marketing is also not branding. There's a whole bunch of things. But anyway, that a lot of people get confused with. But understanding that your logo is the intro to who you are as a brand, right? And I love describing it like this. So best way to think about it is, your logo is the doorway. Imagine you've got a big house, right? Or a big building. Your logo is the doorway, and it's a super cool, colorful doorway that invites people in. People open that door and they start seeing all the trinkets, the sofas that's nice and snuggly, to suit you or your values or whatever it is, your pictures from your holidays. That's your brand. It's all the little intricate details. It's all the things that make you you. So when you understand that more, then you realize the logo's on the outside, right? It's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
The brand is what's in you. It's what's within your business and within your personal brand. So when people understand that more, they're going to start driving their businesses all the more better, and they're going to start talking about what it is they do, why it is they do it all the more better. And that's why I can do this now all the more better. Before, it's like, yeah.
What's my message?
What's my message today, But you just have a bit more of a direct focus. And the reason why this is also important is because it's all about building connections and building relationships that actually last, not the like one-timer ones. You want ones that actually last. So when you know your VPV, you know who you're approaching, you know who you're talking to, you know the interviews that you want to have, you know the people that you want to get on board with your own business, right? You know the people that you actually want to work with in general or collaborate with. And by the way, folks, collaborations can be your competitions. Competition does not have to be bad things. And the more and more people have that growth mindset, the better.
Yeah. That's the thing I find really powerful about your brand, though, is because you talked about the doorway being the logo and the house and the home, what's in the home be the actual brand. And I love that analogy, because with most people, we always say you only know someone really well when you're in their home. Like you feel it. You get a vibe from them. You feel it. And that's the thing I think which people don't quite understand is that investing in building your brand, whether that is through a branding specialist like yourself or by building your authority, that is building you to know people to know who you are before you have to actually open your mouth. You know, they feel your energy, they see it, they get an idea of it. That's why with Queens, it's actually really easy for us to be ourselves because they already feel us, feel like that they know us before we actually open our mouth.
I think that's our superpower.
Yeah.
Because we are us. And a lot of the feedback that we've had is it is because you guys keep it real, because you guys talk about what you've done, what's not worked, but then equally what you also have done again, but what has worked. You know, you're showing and proving. And I think that's what's helped us big time. Because we don't believe in sugarcoating crap. We don't believe in, like, you know, giving you the soft approach. It's like, no, you guys got this. If we can do it, you most definitely can do it, you know? And I think it's, again, coming back to that whole idea of getting out your own way and understanding that when you do get to that level of comfort, I guess, and yes, comfort does take time. And, you know, the whole aspect of being comfortable, uncomfortable being comfortable, you know, the way I'm trying to say it.
Comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's the one. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's why we work together.
You start the sentence and I'll finish it.
Done. I think when you get to feel in that kind of a way and not just be hung up on the idea of, oh my gosh, will somebody listen to me? Or will somebody understand my story? Will somebody want to hear my story? You know, when you get out of your own way, you get to understand that, okay, cool, let's go for it. Let's do it, you know? But yeah.
And I think that's the real shame as well, because there's a shadow side to this, right? It's that a lot of people have a genius, they have gold, they have stuff to give to people, but they are holding themselves back because it's safer there. They don't want to get uncomfortable. And having a brand, whether that is a business brand, a personal brand, or just who you are, you know, a message, it is scary. It's not always comfortable. And you've been obviously a huge part of our book series within Queens. Not only are you one of the co-authors in all three, you've also designed all four of the covers now.
4 now, yeah.
Like, hold on, 4 books.
I know, right? We've got to keep up with ourselves.
Lose track now. But it's been a journey, and a lot of that was unpacking our own stories to go in the books.
It's therapy.
What would you say has been the most vulnerable thing that you've shared within the books that was the hardest thing to tell the public or to open up about?
Yeah, I think, again, 2 things. So one, again, about work, business back in the day, but then also relationship. You know, relationships are in the past, or understanding like how I functioned in them or didn't function in them, you know? It was the idea of, I know we spoke about this recently, right? Within my own past relationship, it was a case of I didn't know what to say at times or how to say it. Or, you know, have you ever had those arguments to yourself? You just worked it out yourself. But, you know, with one of my exes, it was a kind of, it just got to a very crazy situation in the sense where, you know, depression was involved and trying to help them out of it. But no, you're then getting yourself down into it as well. And you're sinking with that, you know? And then I remember him saying to me, he's like, Tan, no, you can't come down with me. No, you got to get, so he lifted me back up, but then went down himself again. And I was like, well, why aren't you not helping yourself? And that used to frustrate the hell out of me. It's like, help yourself. Why are you not wanting to? And I guess even that point, it made me realize that why I started wanting to help everybody as well. Another aspect is because I lost a friend too, who actually committed suicide. And I remember hearing about it. I was like, one of my friends was telling me about it. It's like, I'm listening to your words that you're saying, but it's not computing for me right now. Because I couldn't believe it. And I kept thinking, if only he went to his wife, if only he went to any of his closest friends, or even, you know, we weren't close. However, if he needed to say something, I'd be there to listen. Do you know what I mean? And from that point on, anytime anybody said to me about depression, feeling low, these trigger words for me, I'd be like, right, how can I help you? Let's go. You know, I got you, this, that, and the other. But what you're doing then is absorbing that yourself. And it's funny enough, my beautician lady, who's also a therapist.
I love that.
2 for 1. Do you know what I mean? I do love a good bargain. I used to talk to her a lot about this stuff, especially about my ex. And she was like, Tan, do you know what? Somebody's going to do something, no matter what you say, is going to help. So just know that part. And for that, it was actually a release for me, because it then made me realize that, Tan, okay, you've done what you can. If more help is needed, you'll know about it. But at the same time, it's okay to let go, And sometimes you do have to let go to be able to move on.
Yeah.
And again, that was me going back into the space of helping others right before myself. And there's so many different scenarios that it will pop up. But yeah.
And I think that is a very vulnerable thing to be sharing, because obviously when we are positioning ourselves as experts, we are, on covers of magazines, we're in books. It is actually being real and vulnerable and showing people that, look, I'm still fucked. Like, I still need help in certain areas. I'm not an expert in everything. And I love that you share that about your ex, because I do think a lot of people struggle where they're trying to help people too much. And I do think there is an element of some people can't be helped in the way you want to help them. I'm not saying that they're lost causes. They need to hear it from somebody else. They need to do it a different way. And sometimes you do actually need to let things go to heal yourself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I was carrying that for a while, and probably all too recently, I was still carrying that, because you feel a level of guilt, and you feel like, oh my gosh, why am I, because I wanted to end the relationship, long and short, because it wasn't going in the direction that I envisaged, or that it was healthy. It was not healthy at all. And I think you just have to come to the realization, because you live for the hope, but the hope is not there. But at the same time, you get, for me, I was like, Tan, okay. And actually, no, a friend of mine said this to me. If you were giving the advice to somebody else, what would you be saying? And I smiled. I was like, okay.
Bye. Okay, that's what I would say.
Deuces. But no, I wasn't like that. But so it just made me, again, step into my own again, because I guess I gave myself the permission to do that. And for me, that was super hard, because I felt like I was letting them down. But I was like, no, Tan, you're not. And again, we've talked about this. We put so much pressure on our shoulders. Sometimes I put too much pressure on my own shoulders. I would feel the ache quite literally, and the heaviness quite literally, So I've learned, especially over time, to just release it. It's okay. And I said this in my bonus chapter, in fact, for the book 4, we're not supposed to save everybody, and that's okay. We're not designed like that,
Wow.
We're only supposed to do what we can do in the space. When help is needed, be there, absolutely. But when it's a case of helping yourself, you've got to do that. That whole analogy, when you're on the airplane, parents or adults need to look after themselves first before they can give the child the face mask, the gas mask, not the gas mask. Gosh, no, please don't do that. You know what I mean? The oxygen mask.
Just that type of gas, so you're all good.
Yeah, this is true. The oxygen mask. So, and it's such a cool analogy, because it's true, right? You've got to do for yourself first, heal yourself, build yourself, so you can now build up others.
You can't fill from an empty cup.
Yeah.
As we always say. And unfortunately, I don't know if this is a female-only thing. I think a lot of men, a lot of other people will experience it as well. Yeah. But where we are heart-centered, and a lot of us women are natural nurturers, I know especially within Queens, it's almost alien to support yourself first. It feels selfish. It feels wrong. And I remember when I first overcame my depression and having to put boundaries up, my therapist was saying to me, Chloe, you need to say no to that if it doesn't feel right. That's a toxic attachment, or that's not serving you. And I kept finding myself thinking no and nodding. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'm doing it. And in my head, I'm going, what the fuck did you just do? You're supposed to say
we
no.
just agree?
Didn't we just agree? And it's not like the person was being rude. It's not like they were being insisting. I just felt like I couldn't say no. And it does take some practice. It does take practice, not only to say no, but also to stand up for what you believe in. Say no, but this. Say, I believe this. And it's one of the most powerful, liberating things that we can do. Now, Tan, I feel like I could talk to you about this forever. Like, it's just been amazing. And I already know for a fact this isn't the last time you're going to be on Inspired. Right? Let's go on for round 2. But one thing I want to ask you, because you are a big believer in standing up and being inspirational to lead others. And we have a tradition on the show, which is where every single guest can suggest someone that they know that has an inspiring story that you think we should hear from next on this show. So
Okay.
who do you think we should be inspired by next?
So, I love a good bargain, Chloe. So I was going to say 2 for 1. so, I said them both actually earlier on in the show, and it was Serlina Boyd, the founder and designer of Coco magazine, Girls and Boys now, and actually Hair magazine. So it's developed even more so.
Wow.
And then also Judymay Murphy, just when you get to just listen to or understand each of their stories, right? Or even just to listen to them speak, or especially with Judymay, she just hit home on a lot, and she will call you out again, the aspect of calling out, but then equally help you to realize, oh, okay, it is okay. It is okay to keep talking about this stuff. It is okay to just keep pushing with these things,
Yeah.
And again, with Serlina Boyd, look at the achievements that she's done in such a short space of time. Do you know what I mean? And helped a magazine to pretty much go international. It's not even just in the UK, and it hit major superstores, supermarket stores, and then some,
Wow.
And just having, there's so many other people as well, by the way, but just having the tenacity or audacity, let's call it that, to just go ahead and dare to do it. That's what you've got to find that audacity level
I love that.
and just push it out there,
Yeah. And dare to do it.
and dare to do it. Dare to do it. So yeah.
Both of those. 2 for 1. I like
2
that.
for
I'll take
1.
that. Well, thank you so much, lovely. It's been amazing having you on the show. And I feel so amazing when we have these conversations, because I think it needs to be said. It needs to be heard.
Yeah.
People are watching, feel like they do need to stand out. And we know that. So thank you so much, lovely, for being such an inspiration. It's been
Yay.
amazing to have you.
Cool.
Now, obviously, you're building your brand. Queens is going so many places. I feel like we're on a treadmill going so fast, I can't push the stop button.
yeah.
And we're both just on it for the ride. So if anyone is interested in finding out more about your story, checking out anything you're currently working on, or even building their own brand, what's the best way people reaching out to you?
Yes, so many a way, folks, many a way. But best way is search for @TNG Creates on Instagram and Facebook as well. You'll see both my business pages there, and then equally on YouTube as well. Yes, I'm doing the YouTube thing. And yes, it's woo. But search for the TNG Designs Group Limited, and you will find me talking about all things to do with branding and then some. So yeah, I always share about brand facts because, funny part is sometimes we feel that we've got to throw the world at social media. But guess what? No, I decided to say no to that because it's a lot. And you got to think about what is the purpose for being on these platforms. And for me, it was about, I need to get message about branding out, and I need for people to understand branding more, because they don't, even in today's day and age. There's still a huge number of people who don't. So I put out brand facts. I put out different scenarios about myself, and so you can get to know me a bit more every time and so forth. So yeah, so TNG Creates, search for me.
Oh, I love it. And obviously, those of you that are watching, if you're watching on YouTube or listening to on the podcast, any podcast platform that you're part of, we'll make sure that those links are in the description so that you can get access to them nice and easy. Because I don't know about you, but typing just feels so weird now. It's like, click the link and get the result, right? So thank you so much, Tan. Again, it's been amazing. And here's to getting the next date for your second edition of the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Now, for those of you guys that are watching, you already know what I'm going to say. If you have got value out of this interview, if you got something that felt inspiring, do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, here's what I'd love you to do. Type in the comments and let us know what you found most inspiring about the show. What did Tanya say that really lit something inside you? What was the mic drop moment which made you think differently? What was the most inspiring thing? Type it in the comments, and I cannot wait to read those myself later. If you are listening on any of the many podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, or any of your normal podcasting platforms, do make sure that you're tuning in for our next season. And if you want to, jump over to YouTube and share your comments in there as well. As always, no matter how you're watching it, if you haven't already, do us a favor and subscribe to the show. The bigger the guests, the bigger the show, the bigger the results, and the most inspiring stories. So I cannot wait to see you next week. I wonder who will be inspired by next.